You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name and politics is our game, and we will be doing politics this evening because we have as our guest Alderman Sharon Denise Dixon. She is running in the 7th Congressional District Democratic primary. We're taping this show on November 15th, and that primary is coming up in, what, about 75 days?
Perhaps, yep.
Coming right up there, and that's February 2nd for the Democratic primary. It's going to be really interesting because often that primary is not so contested, but it is this time. The incumbent is Congressman Danny Davis, who has been there 13 years. He will be seeking re-election. He is facing a challenge from, in addition to Alderman Sharon Dixon, he is facing a challenge from Darlene Williams-Burnett. Also Jim Ascott is in the race, also Reverend Hatch, and perhaps a few others. So the 7th Congressional District Democratic primary, things are hopping. And about our guest, she is a graduate from the University of Illinois and majoring in criminal justice. She's getting her master's in social work from Loyola University. She was elected to alderman about 2 years ago. I think you'd describe her as a community activist, very grassroots. She didn't come up in the political world the usual way of political job after political job. This is her first as alderman. Now she wants to represent the 7th Congressional District. We'll talk more about it, but it starts in the loop, goes a bit south, goes west, through the west side of Chicago, into the suburbs. And I think, there's a lot in the news, national issues, domestic policy, foreign policy issues. One thing that's really hot is this good idea. Is it a good idea to try the terrorists who were involved in planning the 9/11 terrorist act that killed 3,000 Americans? Is it a good idea to try those folks in federal court, or should they have been tried in the military tribunal as
No,
they were
I
going
think it's
along?
a good idea. I agree with the president. I think it's a good idea. America, we pride ourselves on being fair and taking leadership roles, and I think that this here is showing the country, the nation, that we not only say but do. And I think this is...
Well, we didn't Mirandize these folks because they were sort of on the battlefield. These weren't people suspected of being terrorists. These were people who were picked up, thought to be so dangerous, they had to be detained right away, and we'd figure out what to do with them later. Mm-hmm. So they weren't Mirandized. The first thing they're going to say is all these things that they've said should be inadmissible. If they were waterboarded, they would say anything after that should be inadmissible. Many people think it's going to be a show trial. This is a way of showing that the United States did something wrong here. It's not about whether these folks were involved in terrorism, or so it's said.
No, I think it is about whether or not these folks were involved in terrorism. And I think that we are taking the right road and trying them just as the president wants to do. We have to get our self-respect back. We have to show that we go by the laws that we actually put on the books. And I think that he's definitely taking the right step in trying
You have to demonstrate that to the world. We're trying to win over the world, the hearts and minds of all of those 5,700,000,000 people, right?
I don't know if we're trying to win them over, but we're showing that we are leaders, that we take pride in our country, and that we treat people as human beings no matter how despicable the act is that they may have forged against us.
Do we care about democracy in the United States?
Very much so.
Very much so. In the United States and outside of the United States, right?
Very much so.
Do we care about, is that part of the reason why we went into Iraq and why we're still in Iraq? Because we're trying to help Iraq become a more democratic country?
Well, that's...
Democratic with a small d.
We definitely are trying to help them become a democratic country, but reasons for going into Iraq have been
Was that one of the reasons? I know, well, people thought they thought, we probably agree, most would agree that some people certainly, most people thought there were weapons of mass destruction.
Most people did, and a lot of people didn't.
You didn't at that time? Do you remember back in 2002?
I do remember at that time. I was not sure, but I didn't feel good about it. And I must say that our current president, when it was happening, stated right away that he was against the...
He did. He sat in the very chair you're sitting at in November of 2002. In October, you may know, he gave a speech down at the Federal Building at the Plaza. Mm-hmm. He and Julie Hamos were the only two elected officials, I think, who showed up to protest the war then. But then a month later he came and sat where you were sitting, and I asked him how he would have voted if he had been in Congress at that time.
Against the war.
He said he thinks he would have voted against it. It was a little less strong than the speech he gave, but nevertheless, you're right. So our current president had that view.
Yes.
He had the view there might have been a danger, but we should have contained it. We should have sought our allies more to be involved. And he said then if we had to go to war, we would be stronger because we'd have many more allies.
Absolutely.
Barack Obama said that. You agree with Barack?
I do. I do.
But he said, you know, we had to be as careful getting in as we were careless. We have to be as careful getting out
as we were as careless going in.
Absolutely. You
Absolutely.
got that right.
And I agree. I agree with that.
So you would not just you wouldn't have said pull the troops out immediately, but now it's 2010. You want to see those troops.
You know,
brought home
it's
from
easy
Iraq?
for candidates. I think it's a lot easier for us to make comments about how we would like to do things, and we do have a perspective, and we should share that with the public. But once you are actually in the seat and in the shoes of the person that has to make those decisions, and then you find out the additional information that we, of course, are not privy to, you start to rethink your position and perhaps fine-tune it, I guess I should say.
Have you been rethinking your position?
I don't think that I don't think so. I think we should be out of there, but we have to come out in a certain way, in a certain manner.
Out of Iraq.
Out of Iraq.
And what's that
Absolutely.
certain manner?
Strategically pull our troops out slowly, which is what I think the president is working on. I think that it's very complex. I think there are many, many issues that he were not even privy to as a candidate, and now information has come to him, and I think he realizes that it's just
Slowly.
not. Yes.
What about Afghanistan? Should we take the troops out of Afghanistan or put more troops into Afghanistan?
Well,
we've got about 60,000 in, I think.
What's on the table now is putting more troops into Afghanistan.
Right.
Now, there's lots, again, of information that we, public folks, are not privy to. I trust the president's judgment. I think that he's a very intelligent and thoughtful guy. I think that there must be information there that he's hesitant about and that he is currently studying. That's what I hear in the news.
For about 3 months. Is he dithering? That's the expression people are using.
Well, that's what
you know about. What does it mean to dither?
That's
do you dither sometimes?
I do.
And
I
what do
think
you
we
dither?
all do.
And what does that mean to dither?
It means to procrastinate, perhaps, or hesitate.
And is that what our President Obama is doing?
I think that what he's doing is he's studying it. He wants to know. I've heard him say in many speeches, I like to know what I'm talking about when I talk. So I'm sure that he wants to make sure that he makes the right decision. This is huge.
Okay.
And I think it takes time.
But based on what you know now, if you were in Congress and Barack Obama made the decision, just hypothetically, that he wanted to put 40,000 more troops into Afghanistan, but he'd like to have a resolution from Congress supporting that. So he asked Congress for that. Would you vote yay or no or nay as in terms of whether you, as a congresswoman, would support having 40,000 troops sent into Afghanistan if Barack Obama said, I think we should?
Jeff, what we have to consider here is that if I was in Congress, I would be privy to a lot of information that would help me make that decision.
Maybe yes, maybe no.
I would think that it would be absolutely
But
necessary.
still, your voters, you know, you want to represent the 7th Congressional District, right?
Absolutely.
It's about 700,000 voters, right? You represent about 100,000 now as the alderman from the 24th.
Not that many.
Oh, excuse me, 50,000. I forgot. My mistake.
That's okay.
All right, so you represent 50,000 of them now. They and the other 650,000, I think, would like to know. They may have, and we'll get into this, some other issues that may be even more important to them than this. But they want to know hypothetically, I think, even though you might have more information if you were elected to Congress, based on what you know now, November 15th, would you follow Barack Obama's lead if he says, I want 40,000 troops, and I want to know if you, Sharon Denise Dixon, agree with me?
What I will say to you, Jeff, is this. I trust the president's judgment. So far, I believe that he has shown himself to be someone that studies the issues and get an understanding before making decisions. I do trust his judgment, but I also think that it is critical that the Congress is informed on issues and that they're able to make intelligent decisions. I think in the past, that hasn't happened, and that has led us to places that we have gone that we would not like to be.
So is the answer yes or no based on the information you have? Would you go with the president and give him the 40,000 troops he wants, or not?
I'm going to say this. I trust the president's judgment, but I also think it is the responsibility of the Congress. It is the responsibility of the Congress to understand the issue and then make a decision.
But based on what it is now, November 15th, as of this date, we understand you may change your mind if you had different information. As of November 15th, yay or nay?
It's just, Jeff, I have to say this again.
You're not going to give me an answer?
No, I'm going to give you an answer, and the answer is this. I have been watching.
No, but you have to vote. In Congress, you got to vote. You got to press a button.
But you vote
just like you do now as an alderman, right?
But you vote on those issues that you understand. And I think a large part of some of the problems that we're having now with our Congress, many feel, that we did not have, or they did not have information that they should have had before making decisions about going to war or sending additional troops.
So you're not going to tell the voters yes or no on that?
I'm going to say I think as a responsible congressional person, I like to have the information and the facts before me before making such a decision.
Major Nidal Malik Hasan. You know that guy?
I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, Fort Hood. How many people did he kill? 13?
Something like that.
Okay, he had been in the Army quite a while. He's a psychiatrist.
Yes.
Lots of red flags, as they say, with this guy, right?
Yes.
I mean, he gave this lecture and he talked about, if people were infidels, they're going to have hot liquid poured down their throats and whatnot. It was supposed to be a sort of a professional seminar, and he's talking about that.
Yes.
Soldier of Islam, right? That's on his card.
Okay.
Maybe they didn't know that, but then there were intercepts, I believe, of email communications going to the imam in Somalia who's thought to be associated with terrorists.
Yes.
They knew that. They still have this guy out there sending him to Iraq, they thought, sometime in the future, or Afghanistan, to deal with problems the military might have, military individuals would have in terms of psychological and so forth. Should the military have said, this is not the right guy to be in that position, we ought to be questioning whether he should be in the military?
Well, obviously something got missed. There's no question about it. I believe I was watching Meet the Press last Sunday. General Casey, I think, was on the show, and also indicated that apparently something got missed.
Now, I don't know if he indicated that. He said the great tragedy we have to avoid was impairing the military's diversity program. That was General Casey. Do you agree with General Casey? Should that have been the major concern that Sunday, last week, of General Casey?
That shouldn't have
diversity.
Been. I don't know.
Isn't that what he said?
I don't think that was his major concern, though. I think
sounded like that to me.
I don't think that was his major concern. I think he wanted to. I think he is in a situation right now that is very sensitive, and he has to be very careful with what he says. And there's an ongoing investigation, so we have to get the facts before we make blanket statements. I think that's.
But do you think it sounds like the military missed something? And maybe did you think possibly they did it for political correctness? Look, Muslims should be treated no worse than any other citizen, but no better.
Absolutely.
Muslims in the military should be treated no worse, but no better.
Absolutely.
If you had somebody who was African American but not Muslim, or white, or Hispanic, and they had been doing what this guy was doing, I think the military would have, in a heartbeat, said, we're going to find out what's going on here, and if it's not right, we're getting this guy out of here. And apparently, it seems to me, because he was a Muslim, they didn't act. Do you think that's possible? Possible. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I think anything is possible.
But do you think maybe there might have been too much political correctness going on here?
Clearly, something was missed. And
or somebody chose not to act. They said because even individuals around them were concerned. They didn't want to raise it for fear of being accused of being bigoted, etc.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't have that. We need people to raise those things.
Absolutely. I agree.
You agree?
I agree wholeheartedly.
All right.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Switching gears over to healthcare. The current healthcare program proposed by Barack Obama. If you had been there, it passed the House. You would have voted for it?
Absolutely.
Even though you favor a single payer, right?
I favor single payer.
This isn't a single payer.
Public option is there.
So that's good enough for you.
That's not good enough, but it's a.
You would have voted yes.
It's a step towards
that
reform.
You would have voted yes.
Absolutely.
You didn't need more information. Yeah. Didn't give me an answer about Afghanistan, but here you give me an answer.
Yes.
All right. And if you see that, would you say that addresses the issue of universal health care? Will there be enough people in your mind who, I imagine you're concerned about, they're not insured now. After that program is passed, they'll somehow have good access to insurance.
I believe with
health insurance.
I believe with the there's 6 to 10 million. I think that will be insured. 6 to 10.
6 to 10 more, is that all?
6 to 10 more,
as a result of
yes.
this program?
6 to
Isn't there
10
something
more.
like 48 million who aren't insured?
Right, but 6 to 10 million I know will be insured as a result of this. So that's 6 to 10 million that are not currently
So that's
covered.
that's a plus for you.
That's an absolute plus.
And what about those others who aren't going to be insured? Is that enough to vote? It's apparently not enough to say you shouldn't vote for this. What about the illegal immigrants who won't be insured as a result of this program?
Well,
do you think that's right?
No, what I think is right is this. We are here in America. We have to get our business straight first. We have people that are here that are uninsured, that are born here, that live here, that work here, and doing everything that they're supposed to do, and they have no health care insurance. We're the richest country in the world.
Take care of your own first. Charity begins at home. You agree with that?
I agree with that. I think you need to take care of home first. That's what I believe.
All right. Mm-hmm. And immigration in general, illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. It said that there are 12 to 13 million illegal immigrants here in the United States. Should there be a path to citizenship for those 12 to 13 million illegal immigrants?
I think so. I do.
And what, in brief, give us a brief thumbnail, what should that path look like? What do they have to do? What would you say those individuals have to do to become citizens of the United States?
I think Congressman Luis Gutierrez is on point with his suggestion as to how to help to...
Which is?
Well, the ones that are here, there's a system in place. The ones that are already here, there's a system in place that they must follow to ensure that they are not put ahead of the line. There are immigrants here that have done everything right. They've done everything right. They've played by the rules. And
should they pay a fine, as some people say?
I'm not sure about a fine. I can't say that
You're saying they passed the usual test that people pass for applying for citizenship. Mm-hmm. Speak English, mm-hmm. understand civics, understand our Constitution,
mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Nothing different, just the same. Mm-hmm. Go through that program. If it takes 10 years, so be it, then they become citizens.
Well,
but not put ahead.
Definitely not put ahead.
But there are people who are waiting to come into the United States, have been doing it legally. Some would say you're putting them ahead of those people.
And that I do have a problem with. I believe in playing by the rules.
Would you send them back and they start over?
It's difficult to say that because now you're talking about separating families, and that becomes another issue.
So you don't know if you do.
So it's a very complicated matter that needs a lot of attention. That's what I feel. I think it's a very complicated matter that needs a lot of attention.
Come back closer to home. 7th Congressional District.
Sure.
What does that district look like? Give our viewers an idea. Where is that? Where does it start?
It's downtown Chicago.
Okay.
Michigan Avenue, goes a little bit north, Lincoln Park, covers some of Lincoln Park. Goes a little bit south, covers some of Bronzeville, Chinatown. Then it heads west to Austin, Lawndale, Oak Park, Maywood, River Forest, pretty large district, very diverse. We can go from $2 million homes to $80,000 condos. So very diverse population.
Diverse, it's would you say 2/3 African American? A little less, a little more?
It is a majority district is what it is.
Which means?
There are more minorities than there are any other population in that district.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Majority district.
And as of now, it looks like there would be, 3 or 4 African Americans and 1 white individual and some others.
Well,
right?
I know that some people have recently withdrawn from the race. A couple of candidates.
Congressman Davis has left, obviously. He's going to run.
Which is very surprising to me.
Because he said he was running for county board president.
Not only did he say he was running for the county board presidency, he had petitions circulated for the county board presidency. He filed petitions for the county board presidency. He was on television. He had numerous press conferences. Is
it your view that his heart isn't in this? His heart was being county board president. He's kind of getting the consolation prize here?
It's my view that the congressman is no longer representing the 7th Congressional District. That's my opinion.
When did that start?
Well, back when Stroger, Todd's father, took ill, Congressman Davis sought that seat. Then Senator Barack's open Senate seat he became interested in, and yet again he's back interested in the county board seat. So I believe that he is no longer interested in representing the 7th Congressional District, and I'm very interested.
And that's why he's drawing the competition.
Well, he indicated to everyone.
Because Darlene Williams Burnett is in. She's going to stay in, right? You're going to stay in.
Jim
Ascout's going to stay in.
I know that I'm going to stay in. I can't tell you what the other candidates.
Reverend Hatch might stay in.
Don't know.
Are you splitting up the African American vote? You, Darlene Williams Burnett, Reverend Hatch, Danny Davis, Maybe that's an opportunity for Jim Ascot to win, who's white. Should people be looking at this in terms of white-black?
No, I don't think so. I think what people should do, people should look at the issues of the platforms of the candidates that are seeking the office, and may the best person win.
What's the most important issue in this district that you find? What are they asking about Afghanistan? They're asking about jobs, crime, drugs?
Jobs.
Jobs, all about jobs?
Healthcare, absolutely. Education.
Let's start with the jobs. Is jobs number one?
Jobs is definitely number one.
So an $800 billion stimulus program came to the United States from Barack Obama, I guess, in February or March. You had been in Congress, you would have supported that?
Yes.
Did it give any jobs to people in the 7th Congressional District?
I think here's one of this is what I'm understanding. It was a lot of money, no question about it, and a lot of folks are very uncomfortable with
$800 billion, that's a fair chunk of change.
A lot of money. However, we have to understand the situation that we find ourselves in today. The deregulation of the banks, separating investment and commercial banking. Huge problem.
You think so?
Huge problem.
Danny Davis voted for it.
Danny Davis voted for that.
You would have voted against it?
I would have voted against that.
A lot of people said that was a relic of an old age, it was allow competition, allow one to do the other to do that.
Some Nobel Prize.
Do you think that caused things?
Nobel Prize economist Joseph Stiglitz, I'm sorry.
Yeah, George Stigler, who was an advisor of mine, he would have said, he wouldn't have said this stimulus he would have said Glass-Steagall should have been removed. Joe Stiglitz, who you're citing, another Nobel Prize winner, you're probably right. He says that's an issue.
Yeah.
But there are my point is just saying there are Nobel Prize winners on either side on that.
That's true, but what is the situation today? What are we hearing today? What is the problem today? The problem today is that we have serious problems with our banks.
Still?
Investing.
I thought they're coming out of it. We bailed them out for about $700 billion bailout. Would you have favored that, the $700 billion
Are they
bailout?
lending? Are they lending? Are they lending today?
Well, they are. They're cautious because we've told them to be cautious.
People are having a very tough time. People with good credit ratings are having a tough time getting loans.
Well, because we scared them. We said to a lot of these entities, we, the federal government, think you've been too loose with credit.
Well, they scared us. We're scared.
Well, but you can understand why they might be more reluctant if the federal government's hammering them and says, be careful how you hand out credit.
Well, they're
going to start being
careful.
careful.
But the federal government is bailing them out, giving them how many billion?
$700 billion. Would you have supported that bailout?
You know what? I believe we were in a position where we really didn't have that much of a choice.
So the answer is yes.
Yes. Okay. We really didn't have that much of a choice. The problem is that as large as that number is, it should have been more.
But okay. The infrastructure program really wasn't much of that $800 billion. Not many, President Obama's critics say, not many jobs came out of that, and we should have done something else. We should have gotten more of an infusion directly to people so the economy would have been stimulated. You agree with that critique?
I do to a certain extent, but I also think that perhaps what about $400 billion more investing in infrastructure?
You want another $400 billion in addition to that $800 billion?
That's going to scare a whole bunch of people because it's a whole lot of money. And
what's the deficit projected for this year, ballpark? Do you know what that is?
I'm not sure of the
1.4 trillion, I think, 1.6 trillion. That's a pretty big deal.
Isn't it? I thought it was closer to 2 trillion than
that. Might be, but I think they're thinking more. But that would make it even more so because people were concerned a year or two ago with Bush when he had a $400 billion deficit. This is 4 to 5 times as large. This is approaching 10% of GDP.
But see,
you want to spend more?
What we have to do is come out of this recession. And in order to come out of the recession, we have to spend money. And in the short term, you're absolutely right. This is what's happening.
Okay. You want a second stimulus?
But in the short term, that is true. But we've got to look at long term here and the investment that we're putting into.
We're talking about investment in human capital, education. Education in your district is a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Is that a federal issue? Is there something you, as a congresswoman, could do about the quality of education in the 7th Congressional District?
I know that the $3 trillion federal budget, 8% of that goes towards education. Okay, at the level that I am at here, the city level, our budget is what, $5.6 billion.
Yeah. State,
$60 billion. And again,
cut to the chase. Charter schools, a good idea?
In some cases, yes.
In some cases, you don't think you wouldn't like to see more charter schools in the 7th Congressional District?
No, I think the charter school is good, and I have quite a few.
Choice. Give people some flexibility, some difference, some innovation, some competition.
But public school works. It works.
You're not for school voucher, school choice.
I like charter schools, I think they
How about
offer-
taking the money? Look, we're spending on average $15,000 per kid per year in the Chicago public schools. That's only part of your district because part of your district's outside Chicago, we said. But for the ones in Chicago, take that $15,000, say to all of your parents in the 7th Congressional District, if your child is in the public school now and you're dissatisfied, here's a voucher, $15,000. Go to the private school of your choice. If you're satisfied, stay in the public school.
But I think
Why not give people that choice? You don't want to do that.
no, it's not that I want to do that. It's not that I don't want to do that. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the public school system. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with the public school system. I think the public school system can work. I think it does work, and I think it has worked for years. It needs a lot of attention right now.
It's not working in the 6 out of every 100 kids who graduate from high school in the Chicago public schools goes on to complete a 4-year college program in 6 years. You're somebody who did, right?
Yes, I did.
But you're one of the 6. 94 don't. How can you say that program is working?
It's not working as it should work, but it can work. What it
We
needs.
said did reform in 95 with Mayor Daley. Hasn't he had that much time? 15 years later. A whole generation have grown up and they can't learn how to read, and you want to give him more time?
No, it's not. What we need is a system that works, because the public school system will work, and it has worked.
Try the private schools. If people like it and it works, maybe the competition will work. Just give them a chance. You heard that saying. You said you're a peace candidate.
I'm a peace
Just give
candidate.
peace a chance?
I'm a peace
Just give
candidate.
vouchers a chance, you think?
Maybe.
There you go. We got a maybe. All right, let's go over to the social issues. We don't have too much time left. Abortion. You're 1,000% pro-choice?
I'm pro-choice.
You wouldn't limit a woman's right to choose in any way?
That depends.
Partial birth abortion? Are you in favor of that? Late-term abortion. Should there be abortions other than to save the life of the mother in the 3rd term?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably
Parental
not.
notice. Should parents have an opportunity to know about their minor daughter having an abortion?
Yes,
You believe in parental notice? Okay.
I do.
Same-sex marriage? Well, should we have same-sex marriage?
That is a very controversial
I know it is.
conversation.
That's why we asked.
Well,
Yes or no?
I believe in. I believe that people have a right to decide and choose who they want to spend their lives with.
So 2 gays or lesbians should be allowed to marry under your view?
I believe people have a right to make their own choice.
Okay. Guns. Should there be, there was a federal ban on assault weapons that lapsed about 12 years ago, maybe longer, 14 years ago now. Should we bring back the ban on assault weapons?
I would say yes.
You would vote for that?
I would.
Should people in Chicago be allowed to own a handgun? They can't now, It's a city law.
I think they should be allowed to have a handgun on their own property.
In their home?
In their home.
You would tell the mayor he's wrong on that.
In their home. In their home.
No
Not on the-
concealed carry.
Not on the public way.
If you're in
their
a
home.
dangerous area and you're walking along and you might want to have a gun in your purse, so if somebody came up to you, you could do something about it?
Not in a public way.
You wouldn't do that? Okay.
No.
Taxes, are they too high or low?
High.
Would you like to lower all taxes on the federal level? Would you be in favor of maybe stimulating things with enterprise zones? Set up zones in the 7th Congressional District where there were just no federal taxes?
No.
Too much, you wouldn't go that far?
That would be going way too far.
Or no tax, maybe cutting the corporate tax?
But cutting taxes is a place that we definitely need to look at and figure out where we can trim some of this. No question about it.
All right. Drugs, is that an issue? That was one of the major issues when you ran for alderman, right?
Absolutely.
Crime and drugs.
Violence.
Right? Violence. Anything you can do about that as a congresswoman?
Well, I've got to tell you, since my being elected to the 24th Ward, it has calmed down just a little bit. I see.
But is there something you can do as a congresswoman that you can't do as an alderman about, say, drugs and violence and crime?
Well, absolutely. Where are the drugs? Where are the drugs coming from and coming into the country? Where are they coming from?